Leonardo da Vinci is the artist behind the Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, Salvator Mundi, and many more. He created the blueprints for the tank, machine gun, diving suit, and the helicopter. He dissected corpses and illustrated features of the human body, all in the name of science. In his L'Uomo Vitruviano, he displayed his mastery in mathematics and art with his use of proportion. Da Vinci is one of the greatest minds to ever live, and his skills were widespread across multiple disciplines. Historians classify him as a polymath, which is a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. He was a polymath during a cultural rebirth of arts and mathematics in the time period known as the Renaissance. The Renaissance is often considered the transition period from Middle Ages to modernity. Across Europe and other parts of the world, there were major improvements in art, architecture, literature, math, music, philosophy, science, technology, and warfare. Since Da Vinci's career took place during the Renaissance, historians often call him a Renaissance man, which is a prestigious way of saying a polymath. The person being described as a Renaissance man does not need to be from the Renaissance like Da Vinci, but the idea is that person is widely skilled in a range of abilities that were valued highly in Renaissance life. As an American, there is no Renaissance period in my country's history. A majority of the Renaissance took place before the Europeans colonized America. In fact, it is because of the technology developed and traded with Asia in the Renaissance period that the Europeans were able to eventually colonize America. While Americans never experienced the Renaissance, and some might even consider America itself as a product of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, it does not prevent America from having a Renaissance man. I've always wondered to myself, is there an American Da Vinci? Does America have a formative figure so well versed that he is worthy of the title, such as the American Renaissance man? There are a couple of people who come to my mind right away. Thomas Edison is a man with over 1,000 patents. Samuel Morse, a painter and inventor who invented the electric telegraph. And George Washington Carver, an inventor and agricultural scientist who has been dubbed the Black Leonardo. But there is one man who I find to be so well-versed, knowledgeable, and impactful that I am okay with donning him with the title, the American Renaissance Man. And that man is Benjamin Franklin. During Franklin's life, he was a writer, philosopher, politician, scientist, inventor, statesman, diplomat, civic activist, fireman, and postmaster general. He certainly had a lot on his plate, which left him with a large but often mistaken legacy. He is often falsely recognized for being a president of the United States, with many publications citing him as the most common person to be falsely considered a US president. I understand this confusion, especially from a foreigner's perspective, since we do honor him on the $100 bill, which might confuse people since our $1 bill, $20 bill, and $50 bill all feature United States presidents. While not being a president of the United States, he is deserving of being on our currency because of his contributions to early American history. Franklin was one of 5 people that drafted the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft of the Declaration. Then John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston all edited Jefferson's draft before handing it over to Congress to vote on. Once the colonies won the war, it was time for the country to establish their own laws. In 1789, Benjamin Franklin, who is now 81 years old, was the oldest delegate to sign at the Constitutional Convention. Even though Franklin signed, he did not entirely agree with the Constitution. In 1789, Franklin claimed, "I confess that there are several parts of this Constitution which I do not at present approve, but I am not sure I shall ever approve them. The older I grow, the more apt I am to doubt my own judgment and pay more respect to the judgment of others." The Franklin quote is referring to multiple issues in the Constitution, but there is one issue that he was certainly against, and that was slavery. 8 states abolished slavery within 10 years of the Constitution, but it would take almost 70 years after the signing of the Constitution for the United States to decide that they would officially end the institution of slavery. Franklin was a known abolitionist, and at the time of the signing of the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin was the president of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society, which happens to be the oldest abolition society in America. Franklin is one of the few Americans to sign the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. By being a part of both these documents, Franklin is one of the most important founding figures in American history. Along with his role in government, Franklin was an accomplished inventor. His most notable invention is the lightning rod. In his Kite Experiment, which was a scientific experiment in which a kite with a pointed conductive wire attached to its apex is flown near thunderclouds to collect electricity from the air and conducted down the wet kite string to the ground. The experiment's purpose was to uncover the unknown facts about the nature of lightning and electricity. Franklin moved his hand near the key and observed an electric spark, proving the electric nature of lightning. He would use this to discover the lightning rod, which attracts lightning. Today, we use lightning rods on top of buildings. The purpose of this is so lightning will strike the rod and be conducted to the ground through a wire, instead of passing through the structure where it could start a fire or electrocution. Because he was a pioneer of electricity, he invented plenty of science lingo. Franklin coined the following scientific terms: battery, conductor, charge, discharge, negative, minus, plus, electric shock, and electrician. Franklin certainly had a way with words and languages. In fact, he spoke 5 languages: English, French, Latin, Italian, and Spanish. He even attempted to make his own alphabet. Franklin's new alphabet eliminated 6 consonants and added 6 new letters, none of which did I know how to pronounce. In a 1779 essay, he debuted what he called the scheme for a new alphabet and a reformed mode of spelling. While Franklin's alphabet was functional, it did not take off. Franklin's love of words probably comes from all the time he spent writing and publishing newspapers. His greatest business accomplishment comes from the publication of Poor Richard's Almanac. Franklin published his first almanac under the pseudonym Richard Saunders. The almanac was published for the year 1733 and was published once a year for the next 25 years. It contained all sorts of interesting information, such as the calendar, weather predictions, sayings, poems, and demographics. Franklin considered it a vehicle of instruction for common people who could not afford books. For years, the almanac would go on to be the best-selling book in America that wasn't the Bible. Another book he published was The Morals of Chess. The book detailed the rules of conduct for playing the game and was responsible for making chess a popular sport in America. Because of his contribution to the game, he was inducted into the World Chess Hall of Fame in 1999. One of his most important works was an essay entitled Proposals Relating to the Education of Youth in Pennsylvania. The essay circulated among Philadelphia's leading citizens, and soon 24 trustees came to form an institution of higher education based on the proposals in the essay. The group purchased a building in 1751, opened its doors to children of the gentry and the working class alike as the Academy of Charitable School in the province of Pennsylvania. Franklin's educational aims were to train young people for leadership in business, government, and public service. These were all innovative ideas at the time. In the 1750s, the other colonial American colleges educated young men for the Christian ministry, but Franklin proposed programs of study which were much more like modern liberal arts curriculum. Franklin briefly held the role of president of this institution. The academy would go on to obtain a collegiate charter in 1755 and establish the first medical school in the American colonies in 1765 and become the first American institution to be named a university in 1779. Today, the university is known as the University of Pennsylvania, and it is widely regarded as one of the best universities in America. Being a founder of a top-level university is a tremendous accomplishment for most people, but Benjamin Franklin isn't the American Renaissance man for nothing. He was the founder of many more institutions that we use today. Franklin established the Leather Apron Club, which was a club for mutual improvement established in 1727. The purpose was to debate questions of morals, politics, and natural philosophy, and to exchange knowledge of business affairs. The members of the club were eager to learn, but lacked the fiscal means to purchase books from British merchants. Franklin decided that members should pool together their money and buy books that they can share. On July 1st, 1731, 10 men, including Benjamin Franklin, invested 40 shillings each to start a library. Franklin's idea took off. The interest in the library grew. The library company started giving out memberships to those invested in the company. The library company was the first library to offer subscription services to its members, and is considered the first public library in America. In the years to come, the subscription-based library theme that was started by Benjamin Franklin started to pop up as far north as Salem and as far south as Charlotte. Franklin's idea of a subscription-based library was a smash hit in the colonies. While he was working on the library, Franklin wrote an article in the Pennsylvania Gazette about the need of a society or organized group of citizens to prevent and protect property from fires. 3 years later, Benjamin Franklin co-founded Union Fire Company, which is sometimes called Benjamin Franklin's Bucket Brigade. It was a volunteer fire department which was formed in Philadelphia in 1736. Franklin's contributions to Philadelphia doesn't stop there. Franklin's friend Thomas Bond, who was a member of Franklin's Library Company, conceived the idea of establishing a hospital in Philadelphia to cure sick people. The idea was a novelty on this side of the Atlantic. Bond didn't approach his good friend because he thought it was out of Franklin's line of interest. But after hearing about it, Franklin became a subscriber and strong supporter. Franklin's backing was enough to convince many others that Bond's projected hospital was worthy of support. Shortly after, they received donations from Joseph Stretch to start the Pennsylvania Hospital. Stretch was one of the 10 men who initially started the Library Company. The Pennsylvania Hospital was founded in 1751, which makes it one of the oldest hospitals in the United States. And last, but certainly not least, but somehow most controversial of all the things that Benjamin Franklin founded, was the United States Postal Service. On April 19, 1775, the Battle of Lexington and Concord took place. This was the first military action of the American Revolutionary War. American colonials realized that the colonies were on the verge of war with the British, and that government operations would have to be performed by the people and not the British government. 3 months later, the Continental Congress turned to Benjamin Franklin and tasked him with establishing a national postal service. Franklin was the obvious choice for this position because he served as the Postmaster General of the 13 colonies, which was a position granted to him by the British Crown. Benjamin Franklin's National Postal Service was the precursor to the United States Postal Service. Soon after taking office, Franklin left the role of Postmaster General to go to France to perform an important mission as an ambassador to the court of King Louis XVI. In 1847, he was honored on the first ever U.S. postage stamp along with George Washington for his contributions to the United States Postal Service. I know for some of you, the title of American Renaissance Man still might be a stretch, but it is undeniable that Franklin is one of the most extraordinary men of early America. He is a founding father, abolitionist, inventor, academic, writer, publisher, librarian, firefighter, founder of a hospital, and founder of the Postal Service. Even with everything I mentioned in this video, I still left out many of his accolades because he did so much. The title of polymath suits him well, but I personally believe the title of the American Renaissance Man is the most fitting and honorable title that we can bestow upon him.